Hey everyone, Cooper here, host of the fine podcast you're listening to. I just want to let you know that the episode you clicked on has a format that is very heavily inspired by a podcast called The Bookening. To be clear, our thoughts and opinions in this episode are our own, but the format is very similar to this podcast. I just wanted to give you a heads up and give credit where it is due. With that out of the way, enjoy the show. Coming up next, Booking It discusses Ember Rising. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Booking It. Of course, your humble and eloquent host, and joining me for Cooper Cobbs, your humble and eloquent host, of course. Wouldn't it be great though if I just went by humble and eloquent the entire podcast? That would be awesome. Anyway, the people who would have been calling me that, joining me today, you already heard his voice. He's Isaiah Ryatsky, the man, the myth, the legend.
What's that?
And all three of us, including Mr. Tanner over there, Tanner Lewis. Yeah. Say hi, Tanner.
I'm doing well.
Wow, nice. And I think for the first time this semester, we're all on, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! Finally broken the streak.
Woo.
So, I guess you guys have anything like to say to each other, like unfinished business on the podcast? Like, why have you guys not been appearing together for like several months?
Glad our schedules could, match up now. Woo.
Yeah, it's true.
There we go. Yeah, that's all I got.
I mean,
and
the way I thought it, the way I got it was, Isaiah's secretary or Tanner's secretary would reach out to my secretary and they'd be like, so what time's recording happening? And they're like, oh, Tanner's busy during that time, or anyway, and yeah, our secretaries couldn't make it work, but
yeah.
Of course, being our sisters,
it's all their fault.
Paid less than minimum wage. Anyway, well, guys, I don't know if you noticed, we have some unfinished business actually ourselves to take care of before we get started because we have a 1-star review now. Isn't that fun? We have finally crossed the threshold after 2 years. Do anybody you want to say anything about that? You guys read that?
I didn't see it.
No.
So.
Okay.
I don't read the reviews. I prefer to have a very unbiased view of myself.
You're like, I know I'm great. I don't care what anybody else tells me. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's true. But
hey, listen, we are so secure that, you know what, we're not going to talk about it because guess what?
So secure that we just talked about it for like a minute and a half. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody, but like every podcast has a 1-star review and it doesn't matter. So, all right. Well, Tanner, you haven't been on a Green Ember episode yet. It's just been me and Isaiah. So why don't you talk about your baggage with the Green Ember and your overall thoughts on the series where we dive deep into Ember Rising?
Okay. Baggage. So, it was on my bookshelf originally.
Oh boy.
Whoa.
I know.
Of the bookshelf.
It's back.
It was magic. I had no idea when it showed up, so it appeared. It
The
just
bookshelf
appeared.
or the book?
Both.
Let's go.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Both. And I think that, I don't know, I think I was probably 10 or 11 when it caught my eye, and I'm like, this has been sitting here for a while. I might as well read it. So I picked it up, and I read it, and I got to the end, and I didn't realize that it was a series, and I'm like, wow, this is a really terrible book. And I never picked it up for like 2 more years. And then 2 years later, I opened up Amazon, and I realized that it was a series.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was a very eye-opening ordeal for me.
I
So,
guess, then you realized that the bookshelf is not always right. That's when you...
Yeah. Should have given you the whole series.
It failed to give me the second book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
How dare it?
Anyways, I start reading the second and third books, and I get into it, and then I go and I read the other two. I don't know. I go read the two history books.
Story,
yeah, the prequel stories, and then I read the offshoot one, the Last Archer, I think, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I signed up and pre-ordered the next 2 books. and got those immediately. So I felt pretty good
That's
about
the way
that.
to do it.
Anyways,
Tanner's
the last
a big pre-order guy.
yes, I am. Pre-ordered the Silver.
He's not waiting on the bookshelf this time.
Nope, not waiting on
Yeah.
the bookshelf. I pre-ordered a illustrated Silmarillion that's showing up on November 8th. Very proud of that. I'm excited on that one. Yes, it also happens to be the exact day that the next Keeper of the Lost Cities book comes out, which I also pre-ordered.
They have a release
It
date
also
for that?
happens to be my birthday. Not my birthday, my mom's birthday. Gosh, wow.
I was about to say,
Freudian
Cooper,
slip there.
did your birthday just change?
Indirectly it is, I guess. I don't know.
But wait,
Yeah.
hold on. Keeper of Lost Cities, the next one's coming out? Let's go.
Yes.
I think that our patrons are still wanting the Keeper of the Lost Cities Isaiah Tanner edition podcast.
Or we could just do the whole series next semester because we got nothing on the list.
Maybe.
I feel
Or
like
you
I
could
could
read
do
it.
like
So.
No,
two
we're not
books.
doing that.
I
I
feel like
veto.
we could push two
Why?
books into one episode.
Probably
I mean, look, here's the deal. We could talk about this
But
off
there's,
mic.
like,
I'd be
8
willing
and
to
a
read
half,
probably the first
or
book.
7.
The first
however
book
many.
only.
Okay. Anyways, I pre-ordered the book, the final book. I got the final book at midnight, and I woke up, and because I had pre-ordered it on Kindle, so it came into my Kindle, and I got the copy. So I pre-ordered it on Kindle, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, wait a second, it's midnight. So I pick up the book at midnight, and I read the entirety of the final book from the span of midnight to 2 a.m.
Wow.
Dang. That's pretty fast.
I know. I
I mean, I
woke
sat and
up
read the
next
whole thing
morning
pretty
and was
fast,
like,
but not like that.
yeah, no. It was very unhealthy. I did not recommend it. Then I went and I reread it the next night
Wow.
Bruh.
because I didn't absorb everything that I wanted to. Anyways, that's a very
that's
off-topic
fair.
thing. We can, but
Moving on.
anyways, that gives you an idea of how much I love the final book. And yeah, that's kind of my baggage on the
Nice.
series as a whole.
And you love it a lot. You and your family, big Green Ember heads, fans, whatever the fandom for Green Ember is called.
Yeah, me and Tucker at least. I mean, me and my
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
Not really my sisters. Taylor never really got into it. She's like, the bunny book? She sounded a lot like Matthew. I don't know. I think they've been like,
It's a little
It's true.
weird.
It's true.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like, no. Anyways, as a whole, I think that the series is amazing. I love all of the little allegorical bits. And yeah, just here's my one thing to tell the people before they go read it. If you think of them as bunnies, you're going to be very disappointed. If you think of
Yeah,
them
that's
as
true.
humans, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that Morbin Blackhawk is a cool name and that Pigott has to fly, really, they're basically humans. Yeah.
That can jump really high and have
Yes.
really, really strong legs, like a
Yeah.
rabbit.
I never really think of them as rabbits. I think of them
Yeah.
as humans with special abilities.
It's true.
I mean, that's fair, yeah.
And which is why it's going to be interesting to read Watership Down later, which I'm really excited about this year.
Anyways,
So, speaking of, we're doing a lot of, we're all over the place today, but I was thinking that, we were talking about doing books for next year. I think that Phantom Tollbooth might be one that we need to do next year. So,
Ooh.
just throwing that out there. Another classic kids book. But anyway, Ember Rising, the third book, and I'll start it off, the first episode, I came out of the closet as, not a completely wholehearted Green Ember lover. Now, remember, listen to the episode. I do love the Green Ember. I think it's great. I think you should read it. Okay? I think everybody should read it. But I was like, yeah, it was fine. It's not the best. But I have to say, I'm becoming more and more pleasantly surprised as the books go on. I'm rereading them. I think the writing is getting better. So, yay.
'Cause it's a good series.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say that Ember Rising, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's probably my favorite. I guess I've been going up the ladder, and each book that we read is getting better and better and becoming one of my favorites. So I'd say so far I like this one the best. I don't know what you guys thought about it. Or how
I thought it
you
was good.
see it in the series, yeah.
the opening chapter, just like amazing.
The prologue or
Yes.
the first chapter?
First chapter,
Both.
I think. Both. Okay, well, both.
I like the prologue because I read the other books.
Yeah,
That's
true.
fair. Yeah.
And also they foreshadow the fourth book with it.
Yes, they do.
So-
He's
so,
really good at that.
mhm.
He's really good at that.
He is. Yeah, I mean, not only do you get a cool world building piece at the beginning, but you get a foreshadow for what will be the next book. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody want to like recap for the folks at home, like what happens in this book?
I feel like Tanner should do it
Yeah,
because
Tanner.
he hasn't been here for any of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody start me off with what ended in the last book because I'm trying to.
The last book was the big battle at Cloud Mountain, and then Heather takes Ember's spot and is carried away to
Ember.
Ackland.
Okay.
Emma's spot.
Yeah.
So we pick up the book, and we start off with this epic scene between from the history, and I'm pretty sure that it was amazing. I don't remember which one it specifically was. It was entertaining though. And then
Like, let's be honest. Like, for me, rereading them, I'm like, okay, this happened in this book. Like, I know all of what happens. I'm just like, which book does it
Yes.
take place in? So like, we all know what happens. It's just like, what book does it take place in?
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean that's really why it's like I don't think I've read them in a little while, like probably
Yeah.
2 or 3 months. But
Yeah.
like it's hard to try and pinpoint everything because everything seems to happen in like the same place
Yeah.
almost every time.
Mhm.
It's like
Well, I'll just say,
it's not the
I'll
biggest
just say, go ahead.
scenery change at least. So like it's hard to like
Yes.
click for where
That is
things are
true.
happening.
Although this book actually does, because really the plot of this book is in two places: the first Warren and Ackland. Then you just
Mhm.
follow Heather and Ackland, and Pickett and Helmer and First Warren as they're getting ready for the Victory Day preparations. And each of them launch a rebellion in their
Yeah.
respective cities. Like, that's basically the plot. So
Anyways,
Basically.
back to the recap.
Yeah.
that was the recap.
I mean, that's fair.
It's true.
But there's a little bit of extra stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like picking Helmer, how they got into the first Warren,
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
even
That's
got
cool
into
stuff.
the first Warren.
Okay, I guess we'll just call that the recap, but here's why I like this book the best out of almost the best. The last one's the best, but like almost the best. Is because it's kind of like the Pickett turning legend. Like
Yes.
it's the Pickett turning legend book. It's like Pickett's like amazing in the first book. I mean, at the end of the first book, and it's like, ooh, we're gonna
Right.
get a lot of like epic Pickett action, and he's just gonna be like this hero. But really, he's not. He's just this little boy in Ember Falls.
till the end
That's
again.
kind of, and they were really playing with that, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
was just
then
kind
this
of like
book-
he didn't really change a whole lot. But then I feel
Yeah,
like
you're
this
right.
one is like the coming of age story for Pickett. I mean, he's
Yep.
just like turned into this beast. Honestly, he's like literally can't die, can't get hurt. He's invincible, and everybody's looking up to him, and it's pretty cool. I also like how Heather, like Heather's also kind of got her like turning her coming of age in this book as well.
Yeah.
She's like turning into this leader for up in the not the Misty Mountains.
Exactly.
I don't know. I can't come up with whatever the Ackland,
the place, yeah.
Ackland. I don't know. Okay, wherever she is, like with all the prisoners, she's becoming a leader. Whereas Pickett's becoming a hero, she's becoming a leader. So
Yeah.
I feel like I just like the dynamic duo of like how to become a stronger person and then how to lead people better.
Yeah, I think that
between the
you're
two.
absolutely right.
Mhm.
Yeah, this book really is a, like I said, it's two places. It's a parallel story between Heather and her journey and Pickett and his. And I think you're absolutely right about Pickett becoming a legend. I just finished this book like 2 hours ago, and really the big theme at the end in Pickett's storyline, Helmer tells Pickett symbols mean a lot, or symbols mean everything, or something like that, or never underestimate the importance of a symbol. And so then Pickett like blows up Morgan Blackhawk's statue or whatever, and then saves the day. And you're absolutely right. He becomes a symbol, right? Like he becomes at one point he literally picks up a torch and says, "Bear the flame," then lights the barrels on fire that blow up. So,
Yep.
I agree. You're right. There's a lot of the comedy from this book is people like, you're Pickett, Packslayer? That kind of stuff.
guy.
So I absolutely agree. Yeah. They're absolutely right with Heather.
the
I mean,
cave
she
scene?
becomes...
The cave scene with Pickett.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
honestly, that is one of my favorite scenes. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a picture of Jesus, honestly. Like he comes out and I don't know. He's just like he comes over and the guy's like, "Wait a second. You're him?" I mean, I've been telling
Mhm.
everybody, but like you're him? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a realization of he's like so much better than even us who are like saying how
Kind of like a John the
amazing he is.
Baptist scene, maybe.
Yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's that scene where they're telling everybody about Pickett, and then Helmer's like trying not to die of laughter. That's really funny. Like you can picture that. Helmer's
I feel like
trying
Helmer
not
in
to
this
laugh.
book is like I feel like Pickett's turned into the like negativity booster in this book, whereas Helmer's turned into like the comic relief.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he always kind of was, but
He turned into what?
But
That's what I'm thinking of. He turned into Haymitch.
yeah, except that
Ooh.
Helmer is much better than Haymitch in terms
Yes.
of like
Agreed.
being a
He
mentor.
is. But that's still the only thing I can think of.
Because the thing is, okay, well, we're not going to go on a Hunger Games tangent, but the thing is,
But we
Haymitch
are.
we are. Helmer, he jokes about, especially in the first book, not thinking they could win. But at the end of the day, you know that even if he doesn't think that, he's going to fight everything. Haymitch is this, like, doesn't really care and is just going to get drunk, I guess. I don't know. Haymitch is a difficult character to read, but Helmer's better, I think. He's just the funny, grumpy old mentor character, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He's,
Yeah.
more grumpy and mean than Gandalf, but just as funny. So,
Yeah.
yeah, then Heather becoming a leader was the other thing. I like what you said. I think also her transformation of trying to, or I guess becoming a leader and taking action, not just inspiring people, but taking action and
Mm-hmm.
and being really the cause of what happens with the rebellion, the cause of saving people, the cause of saving Jax, things like that. Like she really, and obviously becoming a healer, saving people. So instead of just inspiring people to action and staying on the sidelines, she jumps in. So I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Isaiah,
kind
did
of
you
love-
have any? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I was just gonna ask Isaiah had any thoughts so far.
Yeah, go ahead and then I'll say whatever I was going to.
I mean, I definitely thought this was definitely one of my more favorite books of the series.
Yeah.
Like Tanner said, though, not as good as the final book. The final book is awesome.
I'm ready for this discussion because I remember not liking it a ton, the ending.
Well,
But
you
we'll
also
see what
didn't like the
happens.
series, so but I thought it was a good book, good storyline. I like how it like went back and forth between Pickett and
Mhm.
Heather, but like it made it where when the story with Pickett ended, it was like suspense for you. You wanted to know what happened next,
Right.
but you had to read what happened with
Mhm.
Heather. But then by the time you got to the end of the Heather part, you wanted to know what happened with Heather, and you forgot all about Pickett.
Yeah,
Like it just kept you entertained and wanting you, like it kept you wanting to read more.
yeah,
and
absolutely.
It was just a well-written, good storyline. You gotta love the part with the tunneler and all that.
Yeah, I am the tunnel and the truth.
Yeah,
I will
like-
say, I
honesty, though-
really do love that part, except I don't buy that it's been there for 100 years. Like,
yeah. I don't
why
buy
would
that
you
either,
need to
but-
have a tunneler if King Jupiter is on the throne? Like, I don't get it. And
Yeah.
I guess with more you could kind of buy, like, they're really a cult, honestly. So I would buy that. But, like, why would... I don't understand why this is necessary with King Jupiter as the king, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Honestly though, like about like the picking up of the stories and like just switching off. When I go in back and I reread it, I read all of Pickett and then I go read all of Heather just because it's more entertaining that way.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, that is fair.
To like reread
I will
it,
say
it's so
he
much
does-
more fun that way.
Yeah, I think it's actually really fun to read novels that don't have, their own, they have their own point of view chapters from characters and they don't really intersect. And you can just read the entirety of a person's story. I think it's really
Yeah.
cool. I will say, though, I think he did a pretty good job of cutting back and forth. And it's
Yes,
interesting
yeah.
because typically he'll spend, I think as Isaiah noted this, you'll spend a lot of time with Heather and then he'll spend a
Yes.
lot of time with Pickett and then keep cutting back and forth.
Uh-huh.
So,
He spends
one
enough
thing
time to
I wanted
get
to
you
say
bored
that-
and then excited again. How about that?
yeah.
Yeah. one thing I just thought of, maybe with the tunneler, like you said, that it's been there for 100 years, maybe that area was always like a prison for people that Morbin caught or like his enemies.
That makes
And
sense.
because there
I
was
can buy
always
that.
a war with Morbin and all those like the raptors or whatever between rabbits. But Jupiter was still alive and kept peace, at least that they knew of, until they got attacked by the army.
So
By
I've read
the
some of
I'd
his
say-
forums about.
raptors.
I've read some of his forums about that, and that's like his answer. Like they were stolen from the wars, and so the first time that somebody got caught, he turned into the tunneler. Like the first
Okay, that
person that
makes
got
sense.
caught by Morbin, which would have been like 200 years before
Yeah.
Jupiter. So
Okay.
it
Yeah,
makes
because
sense.
isn't that what the oh my gosh, whatever side book it is where they meet the raptors or
Yes.
the birds? Yeah, I can't remember. Is it the Black Star of Kingston? Or no?
Yeah, it's
oh
the
my
Black
gosh.
Star of Kingston.
The rise and fall of. Wait,
What's in mirror?
I forgot the name of it.
No,
Whatever.
it was
One of the
Black
side books
Star. It
gives
was
you
Black
the
Star of
backstory.
Kingston, and then it's the Rise and Fall of Wits and Mariners, the second one. That's where they meet the lizards.
I see.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, I think the correct answer is you guys are right. Like this process got
course we
started
are.
before Jupiter, and then they were just so cult-like and obsessed with preparation and stuff. They just kept doing it. So I buy that.
Yeah.
I buy that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, as I said, the cutting back and forth is good. I'd say the end. You end Heather's storyline except for the last chapter, like 10 chapters before the end. The entirety of the last 10 chapters are all with Pickett. So
Yes,
if
yeah.
the climaxes are weird, like you have the climax of Heather, then you have the climax with Pickett, and I understand,
And then
go
the
ahead.
final chapter.
Then the final chapter, yes, exactly. And it's actually something me and my cousin were talking about over on the screening with the Two Towers, how to have like the Two Towers ended up pushing the stuff with Shelob into the third movie, right? And we were talking about how that's kind of because it would have been hard to juggle these climaxes at the same time. The climax of Frodo and Sam fighting Shelob and then Helm's Deep, right? And
Yeah.
so I get that it's hard to balance a climax, but it is, I don't know, it's kind of weird to have Heather just do her stuff and then Pickett do his stuff. I think that a good climax where you're cutting back and forth between storylines is better than one without. But that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I understand it's really
No,
hard
I
to do.
agree.
But it was just something that stuck out to me as I was reading it.
Anyways, one thing that I wanted to say was like in the second book, they were kind of, I mean, Pickett and Heather were portrayed as the scribe and the fowler, like the warrior.
Right.
And I like how like their personalities have kind of traveled over with them to these people that don't know them, right?
Uh-huh.
Like these are people.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like in each book they've kind of restarted, right? They've become like these. They were these little children in the first book, and they're just like they're pitied, right? They're pitied because their dad died, and then they're hated because of who they are. And then in the second book, they've turned into these legends now, and they're just exalted and kind of like above everyone else when people don't feel like
and the
they
second
should
book
be.
plays a lot with that.
Yeah. And then in the third book, I like how they've kind of like restarted again. I feel like in each book they kind of restart, and no longer are they these like people up on a pedestal. They kind of like chop the tree down again, or the totem pole, and they start over again, and they keep building up again. And I feel like it's the end of this book that like, and moving into the final book where we've kind of like they finally built a foundation, right? Like we don't need to keep chopping them down, because like they've finally reached their potential, and they're no longer like, they don't have pride. Like they've lost all of that. They're like they've literally been caught and almost died multiple times. Like I feel like they're past. I feel like that's why I like the final book the most. I feel like they've passed the point where you need to build their character and make them appeal to the reader. They've passed that point. They've moved into the point where we're finally seeing what they could achieve once you've gotten rid of all of these prejudices.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think that the second book deals a lot with them being, oh, you're the scribe now, or you're the guy who flew, and now they're thrust into circumstances where nobody really knows who they are, and they have to prove themselves again. So I agree with you on that level. They have to prove themselves again. And I think you're right. I think that a lot of their character development is finally grounded, and they're in a good place now to where we can have the setting of the final book. So, yeah, I agree mostly with you, for sure. There are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. So first, like I said, I really like this book a lot. I think that these two storylines, we've heard a lot about the places. We've heard a lot about Ackland. We've heard a lot about First Warren and how terrible they both are. And they pretty much lived up to it in terms of what you were expecting. And yeah, they lived up to my expectations, at least in terms of the descriptions and the horrors and things like that. And by the way, I didn't say this earlier. Wit, the character from, or Captain Moonshine, not Moonshine, whatever's Captain Moon. Yeah, Moon Knight, yeah. Him from...
Light,
oh, yeah, you're right, Captain Moonlight. I said Moon Knight at first. I was like, well, that's weird, but okay. From, whatchamacallit? From First Warren. I think you're right. I think it's Captain Moonlight.
It's
he's really fun. He's the second oldest of Jupiter's sons. Great character. I liked him a lot. He reminded me of the Florid Sword from the Wingfeather Saga a little bit.
Yes. Actually, that's another thing. I loved how much, I love all the Rabbit Room stuff just because, they all, especially between Peterson and Smith, it feels like they have, the two storylines that, what if we crushed these two together? What would happen?
Yeah, I feel like they both have a similar mission, right? Telling... As S.D. Smith puts it, new stories with old souls. So I think that there's overlap and similar character archetypes and things like that. But yes.
Yeah. It is Moonlight, by the way.
Okay, thanks. Fact check Isaiah, we call him. He'll sometimes, totally. I'm sure I know he does it, whenever he says something incorrect, he'll edit over a voiceover. Fact check, false. I bet he does that.
Sure, totally. No, never done that.
Anyway,
I'll do that now,
one criticism... when I say... Moon Knight or something, you say fact check false Moonlight and just edit that over. That'd be funny. Anyway, I was trying to get to a criticism of the book because I honestly found a lot of their villains to have no three-dimensionality to them at all. There's no psychological depth. And continuing the Wingfeather Saga comparison for a moment, the two main villains of the Wingfeather Saga, Nag the Nameless and Bonifer, and we'll get into spoilers, but they both have very complicated and, rich pasts, I guess.
You already spoiled by even saying one of their names.
Yeah, fair enough. I realized after I said it. Whatever. It's okay. If you read it, he's obviously the villain. I'm sorry. He obviously is. But anyway, Nag the Nameless and Bonifer, they have very complicated pasts, and their psychological depth is well explained. Their motivations, especially, are very well... put forward so that we know why they're doing this, and it makes sense. They're very well drawn characters in terms of villains. And now listen, I don't care that Morwen Blackhawk is anything but an evil bird. I get it. Sauron is evil. All good villains are just plain evil sometimes. Okay, I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But we meet 3 or 4 characters, and they're just evil for no reason. The Captain Vigors from. Or Vaggart. Fact check me again, Isaiah. The bad captain from First Warren.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta find it, though.
Then there's the bad captain from Ackland, and they're just the same person. They're just bad. And then we learned that Helmer has passed with the captain from First Warren. It's you tortured a recruit or something like that. And it's well, first, Helmer, you basically tortured Pickett, so, whatever. And then secondly, why did he do this? Why is he just bad? I don't get it, You get the fact that Garton Longtreader, he probably has complicated motives, and he has motives and things like that. That is these people are just evil, and there's no nuance to this at all. I just wish there was a little more nuance to these characters.
I think I can answer your...
Dagler or whatever his name
is?
Dagler. Captain Dagler.
Yes, you're right.
I love how it's not Dagger, it's Dagler. Let's make
let's
make it sound
it's J.K.
crooked.
Rowling level.
Yeah.
Lucius Malfoy.
Let's make it sound crooked.
Morwen Blackhawk.
Yeah, that guy.
Anyways, I think I can answer why not necessarily the rabbits. The rabbits are one thing that I could like. Those kind of need some like. Why would you
Nuance,
betray?
yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. Like
Like
that
these
needs a
rabbits are
nuance.
betraying their own kind. Like I get there are psychopaths, but how many psychopaths can there be? One book.
True. But
I
at least
mean,
as far as all the
you never know.
as far as the prey, like the predators, the lords of prey and all of that go, like
Yeah.
I think they're pretty easy just because they're like, think about it this way. Biologically, they're just going to eat whatever they eat. You
Look,
can't
like I said,
stop
I don't
them
care
from
about the
eating that.
hawks. Like orcs are just plain evil in Lord of the Rings. Sauron's just plain evil. I get it. They
Well,
really need a
orcs
motivation.
are different. They were
Okay.
created by Sauron
Well,
out
yeah,
of
fair enough.
bone and mud and magic. So it's not
Makes
like
sense.
they had a choice. That's just
Orcs were
their
not
purpose
created by
was to fight.
Sauron, and
Fair enough.
they
You're
were
right.
not.
You're right. You're making my
We're
point
not
for
going
me,
into
Jay.
this
Good job.
right now. That's some.
Let's go.
That is
Yeah, I
depth.
did
So,
something.
like I said, I don't have a problem with the hawks necessarily being just plain evil, but I do with the rabbits. I just wish there was more nuance to them.
I see that, but I just don't think it's big enough to ruin it.
No, it's not. It's just a small critique. Like I said, I really enjoyed the book.
Okay.
All right, I have one final question before we call it quits today. So as I was reading it, I was like, is this realistic? Is this what would happen in a war? Is this how rebellion would work? Is this how the people would rise up? And we can talk about that maybe when we recap Green Ember next week. But the real thing I want to ask is, or not next time, not next week. At the very end, Emma has the ability to, like, execute Winslow, the puppet king, and she doesn't. And I was wondering, if this was a real battle scenario, what would, if it was your call, like what call would you make about Winslow? Would you execute him, or? Now, obviously, I have to say, like, Emma was in front of like an entire crowd. Like, I wouldn't have beheaded him in front of everybody. Like, that would have been like really weird and demented and stuff. But
Okay, here's what I'm
like,
going
if
to
you
say.
just had the chance.
I'm going to have to use another Hunger Games example.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. That's honestly, between the for the Green Ember, I feel like that's like the closest thing I can get it to, other than like I can compare
Oh
it
yeah,
to.
Hunger Games. Group of kids fighting in an arena to the death.
Yeah,
Totally,
yeah.
really close to Green
No,
Ember.
the rebellion part, like the terrible
Okay, fair
Mockingjay
enough.
books.
Okay.
The
Fair
terrible
enough, fair
Well, you
Mockingjay
could have
books.
specified.
Like, honestly, the terrible Mockingjay books are like almost the exact story that we're having here. Like, we go into this like hidden society, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna
Yeah,
rise
and there's
up,
even
and we're gonna defeat.
there's even like a district that calls themselves the 7th district when there's only 6.
yes.
So I get it. I get it.
I
Make
mean,
a point.
It's
Make a point.
Anyways, end of the book. She shoots the rebel leader instead of Snow, because he's just pure evil, and everybody's going to recognize that and take care of him anyways. That's what I think just happened here. You're welcome. Not forget.
So you think that you would have executed him?
I feel like I wouldn't have. I feel like he had a change of heart. I do feel like what she did was correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Like, it
have
emotionally makes sense.
like everything that she did makes sense. I really don't think that anybody else would have done anything different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, not a Bible
Right.
believing Christian like Smith. Like, it makes sense.
Right.
I really don't. And like, even within a like actual battle, if it was a Christian leading the battle, I really don't think anything like that would have happened. Like,
Well, I mean,
if
the
it's
thing
your
is,
brother,
earlier, Helmer has no problem dispatching Dagler. Like, he just the book
Dagler
says
was
he fell in two lumps. Like, he hit the ground twice.
yeah, but I guess what I'm going at with what's the oldest brother's name?
Winslow.
Winslow. Oh, I don't know what that name is. There's another. Anyways, I need to look that up. Winslow, he's like a puppet. He signed up so that he wouldn't die. That was his thought.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm going to do this so I wouldn't die. I feel like Dagler's more of I do this because it's fun. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a
There's
difference between that. I feel like there's a,
You're right.
yeah, I feel like, whereas Winslow was like coerced to do something, like, you have to do this, otherwise you're gonna hit the floor in 2 and two
two
thumps. Like,
2 bits, yeah.
2 bits. You're not gonna live. Whereas Dagler is like, I do this. I'm a part of this because I will have no problem putting somebody into kind of people in 2 bits. Like, I feel like there's a distinct difference between that.
No, you're right.
Like the level of evil that Dagler displays versus the level of evil that Winslow displayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I totally agree, and I wouldn't kill him, but I'd imprison him so he doesn't go and help the enemy if he actually is evil.
Yep, that's true. Like, at the end of the day, now, would I have had the same scene and then just have Emma cut his head off? No, because it wouldn't have worked. It would have made sense. It would have been dirty and stuff. But at the same time, if you examine the crimes that he committed, and you hold to the belief that I hold about, capital punishment, things like that, I mean, no matter if he has a change of heart, which I think you're right, he does. He has a different moral culpability. I still think, at the very least, you imprison him. Like, you make him pay for his crimes. So, cause, like, he really is a coward, and he let these things happen. Maybe he didn't want them to happen, but he let them happen. So,
I did like the crown scene, though. The crown scene was awesome.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
she threw the crown
I'm going
down.
to slam the crown to the ground. And
moment.
I love his picture of, like, everybody standing there, but no one stoops to grab the jewels. It's like...
it's a good line. They're like, nobody dared to go pick up the jewels. That's a good line.
That was just...
Sure.
It gives you, like, a beautiful picture of, like, how everything worked.
Do some donor shout-outs. So, Tanner, why don't you tell the folks where to get donor shout-out?
You would go to patreon.com/bookinit and donate to any of our $5 and up tiers.
There's donor shout-outs. I'm going to say the donor, and you guys alternate saying whether or not you would give them the Whitson Stone, all right?
All right.
All right, so Isaiah, you get Nana.
Sure.
Van Pappy and Wayla, Tanner.
Sure.
Mike and Laura.
Sure.
And Jenny and Uncle Sam.
Sure.
Moses.
Nah.
Zara.
No.
Anna.
Sorry, but no.
You guys are like, sure, I'll give it to him, or nah. All right, Tanner, Emily.
Sure.
Becky.
Yep.
Lizzie.
Sure.
Keenan.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed that review of the Green Ember. Now, if you would like to help us and offset that first 1-star review that we've received, and you actually do like this show, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review down below. It really helps us out. And also, if you want to share the show with other people, that would mean a lot to us as well. We'll see you next time with... Oh, I should say this. Next time in 2 weeks, I think it is, or whenever, we are reading a book called Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And as I recall, I read it a year ago. It should be pretty clean. But it is a horror book, so please use discretion when deciding whether or not to read it, or things like that. So, don't want to, get yelled at by people because they're like, why are you making me read this book? Anyway, we'll see you next time. Something Wicked This Way Comes. And until then...
Keep on booking it.